I suspect none of us have ever foreseen the gaze of so many thousands, these faces and the bodies behind, these 50,000 eyes, brown, blue and hazel, all staring. I sit on the seat as Harry steadies the bicycle. He's tall and he stands at my handlebars, looking past my shoulder. His own eyes are quite distant. Their whites bloodshot with coffee and sugar and 100 varying queries. The cobblestones make the wait awkward. I fear my bike is going to topple before we set off, a fool before the Paris thousands. I ask the time, but no one will answer me. It is within the hour in which the tour starts, and that is all we know. 9:20 is our due. When it'll arrive, I can't say. Harry nods at me, but then his jaw stiffens as a draught of noise comes off the crowd. He blinks, and this sound flattens for an instant. The faces and mouths and all the brilliant eyes dim, fold and brighten again. I adjust the brake lever. I make the change in racing position. Then I change it back. It should be warm, but pockets of night still sit in the shadows, its air running over our arms, over the run of nerves which have pimpled the skin. A pretty girl leans out of the crowd on the balcony above, trying to get any rider's attention. She's wearing a coat, but pleasantly all the buttons that matter are undone. One of our team says, "Phew." It's Percy, and his accent's rough. So rough, the French look at their shoes when he speaks. He's nervous and slaps Harry on the back. Nobody looks him in the eye, at least not Harry, because I know what he's contemplating as he looks back at the crowd, what half the men are asking as they ready themselves. "What's—" Harry starts. "What's what?" I say back. "Do we know?" But he stops again as he's drowned out. All the noise, the cathedral sound of Le Tour. Another team has left the line. We each wait out our turn, suspended on the rattling noise of the city. I doff my hat the girl's way. She seems to shout something out. I smile at all of us. Harry asks me what her name is, but then the crowd begins again. It surges. The sound seems to move and gather, setting a high point in its tide. He twists his neck and elbows my side. I nod and see what he is looking at. We all sense the dense weight of the 8 tourist routiers standing in the rear about to set off on a warm-up. Some I recognise. Francois Louvière is amongst them. I go quiet, as does the crowd. I watch him stretch his legs. Harry's squinting once more. I watch him because I believe I know what he is thinking, what he is doing. He's asking how the dark has fallen outside his house. He's asking what might be on the table inside the house at the end of the road at the start of the plains, for it is that approximate time back far in the south. He's thinking of the room where his wife stands beside the quiet boil of the pot. I know how comforting these thoughts can be to one who fears the noise, the cauldron sound of murmurs growing to calls and shouts and moans. It surrounds us, crawls under our shirts and runs along our skin. The sudden loneliness hits, and you turn and look around and think back to the things of food and drink, of love and quietness. I know, because everyone fears the noise. "Hey!" Percy calls out to the girl. She winces, but grins. 3 Australians and 2 New Zealanders. We can't know what we sound like this deep in Paris. And I say Paris, but we're really in the outskirts at Le Vésinet. But still, the city is here. Ernie Bainbridge yawns. He starts humming a song, but Percy interrupts, or is already interrupting, as he had never really stopped talking. It's a nervous monologue, joking and serious and uncertain. Words he said before we left for Brussels, said when we flowed out of Perth that March dawn. Something about mornings and Percy Osborne. "We're going to sink," he says. "You're a nervous Nilly," Ernie says. "A bridge'll be out and you jokers'll go down. I won't be there. I'll have quit." Harry smiles and opens his mouth. "You're nervous," I say. "Damned right I'm nervous," Percy says. "I'm nervous. I'm filthy nervous." The repetition seems to help, seems to summon up some new pluck I hadn't noticed previously, because he whistles to the girl, doffs his hat and waits as she blows a kiss across all of us. She beams, but this time I can't say if her smile is a secret gift for Harry, Percy, Ernie, me, or indeed for Opperman, who's happily listening in and keeping quiet, or if it's a gift for the broad sweep of the scene she must be seeing from up there, tens of thousands bright. "Do we know," Harry says, what signal we get?" I ask, and Harry nods. "Who?" asks Percy. "Us. What signal do we get to start?" "Hubert," Harry says, and turns to find Opperman, who is concentrating on his handlebar tape. "How do we know the race has begun?" Percy asks. Opperman puts out his bottom lip and shrugs. "I don't know, Percy. When we've started racing, I'll let you know." Percy mumbles something, says in half a voice not quite his own, "Asked for a captain and they send us young Sonny Cadet here." His brow is furrowed, and he's thinking, surprised at where this voice came from. Some butcher in the lane, a broken digger at the station selling stamps and newspapers, perhaps a relative who's been here before. It's all as if he's taken aback by the sudden need to be another, to be himself. "It's not the Sinai," I say. "You mean the Somme?" "Fuck the Somme." "Do we go to the Somme?" Harry asks. "Oppie?" Our leader jerks his head at Ernie Bainbridge, who nods. "Not really," he says. "Somebody do some more star jumps," Percy says, and Opperman laughs as he bends to adjust his toe clips, which do not need adjusting. An official waves for us to move up another place towards the line, and the crowd sounds out like the inside of a wave tearing itself apart. We know a favourite has left the line. We look at one another and wonder which of the darlings has made their start. Monsieur France shouts to us from up ahead. He's our manager and speaks without uttering a word of English. Mr. France. We take bets on his first name. "What's he saying?" Percy asks. But we know it doesn't matter what he says, not in this noise. It's the look in his eyes that tells us what we need to know. And it is saying we are up next, the next to ride into the howl this city makes when men are set free.